morning, viewer. Welcome to our Glory Globe TV. Here's the breaking news. Yes, last month, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar said Indian businesses need to stop looking for a China fix while terming the Make in India program a strategic statement to spur the country's manufacturing. Jaishankar was voicing the general sentiment that China's cheap imports deindustrialize India, take away millions of jobs and keep it dependent on China. Therefore, India's trade imbalance with China calls for more local manufacturing. India's trade gap with China widened to 83.2 billion in the last fiscal as against 72.91 billion in 2021-2022. Exports to China dipped by about 28% to 15.32 billion in 2022-23, while imports rose by 4.16% of 98.51 billion in the last fiscal. India's solar industry is an example of how India faces a complex challenge to fulfill its Make in India ambition. India might cut its import duties on solar panels to half. Reuters has reported recently the Renewable Energy Ministry has held talks with the Finance Ministry to approve its request to cut the import tax on solar panels from 40% to 20%. India's nascent solar modules industry, which has been growing in the shelter of high tariffs, dreads such a steep cut in import duties. The duty cut will deliver a blow to India's ambition of quickly expanding local production. But local plants cannot keep up with rising demand and India must import solar modules to fill the gap. India is aiming to install 280 gigawatts of solar generation by 2030 compared to about 64 gigawatts now, as it overhauls its coal-dominated power grid. According to news agency Bloomberg, that would require the addition of 27 gigawatts of capacity every year for the rest of the decade, more than double the volume installed last year. While its local industry cannot meet the rising demand, India must import more solar modules, but that imperils its nascent domestic industry, which must grow to support the solar energy targets. Such volatile changes in government policies so that businesses cannot be dependent on policy support. Binoy Rostaki, MD at Bridge to India, a renewable energy consulting firm, told Bloomberg recently it is dampener for domestic manufacturing prospects. Even when India tries to become more self-reliant by increasing local manufacturing capacity, it still has to depend on China for critical intermediate inputs. Take the case of Apple's iPhones made in India by Tata. Almost 90% components used for Apple phones by Tata are sourced from mainland China. Even as Apple looks to shift manufacturing to India, that's reported recently, items such as brackets, industrial glues, screws, mesh, pressure sensitive adhesives and metal parts are all shipped from China as per Apple's instruction. One Apple's old-time vendors such as Foxconn, Pegatron and Wistron manufacture end-to-end phones to India. In financial year 2023, India accounted for 5% of iPhone's total global production and exported phones worth 5 billion, a near four-fold surge compared with a year ago. Localization of manufacturing, the domestic value addition, however, cannot happen before manufacturing achieves critical mass. Till then, India will have to depend on China for imports of intermediate goods. If you add to it the import of finished items where India cannot compromise growth, such as the solar sector, it indicates a heavy reliance on China. It means India's project to become self-reliant in manufacturing must depend on imports from China, at least initially. Many electric two-wheeler companies cornering subsidies aimed at promoting domestic manufacturing to meet the ambitious green mobility goals from the government without fulfilling the localization requirements is a case in point. Many parts are imported from China due to lack of sufficient local manufacturing. Global supply chains are not easy to shift from countries where they got embedded in a vast local manufacturing ecosystem. The countries trying to do that must develop comparable ecosystems, which cannot happen overnight. Meanwhile, they will have to depend on imports from China. Tariffs alone cannot help local industries. Beyond the report, Globe TV, Delhi, India.